Hi everyone. I want to take some time and share my story, my personal story about my journey to become a PA because I get asked this question so many times, so I figure it would be better if I put it here and I can send people here instead of having to repeat the story, although I don't mind telling it because it's a great story. But decided I'll put it here, have it documented. So I guess my journey started about 10 years ago. I was with some friends coming back from lunch and we were all just kind of thinking about the future. You know, our kids are going to be getting older and what exactly was it that we wanted to do and where did we see ourselves? And one mentioned that her husband suggested that she consider going to PA school. And another one said, yeah, that would be awesome. You know, PAs are great. And then I said, well, what's a PA? And my friend said, you know, the PA, they wear the white coat, but they're not the doctor, but they're not a nurse. And I was like, oh yeah, I have one of those too. I used to see one at the OBGYN. And so I started thinking, I said, I wonder what exactly do PAs do? So I went home that evening and stayed up for hours searching everything I could find on PAs, the life of a PA, PA school, what exactly is that a PA does, where do they practice, salary, all the kind of things that you would do in basic research. And so it happened to be that the only PA school that was in our state at the time was having an information session the very next day. And so I signed up for it and I went to the information session and I remember texting my husband saying, oh my goodness, there's a lot of people here and they're mostly young people. They're here with their parents and here I am, you know, this older woman married with kids and I'm here. And it was pretty scary to hear the statistics that every year they would receive over 700 applications but could only accept 63. And they talked about a strong applicant having healthcare experience and, you know, research and things of that nature. So I did have a little bit of healthcare experience from volunteering and then also some part-time work that I'd done in undergrad. But I decided, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And I didn't have the option of applying to more than one PA school because my husband was, you know, rooted, had a solid job, was the breadwinner for the family. So uprooting the whole family and moving somewhere else just was not an option. So I knew I needed to put my best foot forward. So I had pulled out the transcript, looked to see if I had any classes that would transfer and which classes I would need to retake due to them being so old, or maybe I just had not taken them at all. So I was told I needed to take 6 core science classes, and that was anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, biology, microbiology, organic chemistry, and chemistry 1 and 2. So that's a lot to have to take to be able to get, those are just the prereqs to be able to get into PA school. So out of those 6 classes, 4 had to be completed before you could even apply. And I was told that it would behoove me to wait until the next year's application cycle to apply so that I could take my time and take the science classes and focus on getting a really good grade to be competitive. But that's not me. I decided to go full-fledged, and I almost missed it because had I waited just a couple of more weeks, I would have missed the opportunity to sign up for Maymester because all of this happened in April. So I signed up for Maymester to get started on the prereqs, and then I was in school all summer, but I was able to complete those 4 sciences and made A's in all 4 so that I could apply in the current year's application cycle. So I applied and like everybody else was holding my breath for a couple of months, just waiting, wondering what's going to happen. Meantime, I was also getting hours and I was shadowing PAs throughout the community as well. I also had to take the GRE again, so I had to quickly study and take the GRE, so I didn't want to forget that part too. So it wasn't just like I was taking classes, but I was taking classes and also shadowing as well. So end of the year comes and I get called in for an interview and went in for an interview and guess it went well because I got accepted into the program. So the next year rolls around, I start PA school and it was just like they all would say it's like trying to drink from a fire hose, and literally that was what it was like. I was so accustomed to learning a concept and then moving on and learning something else and then taking a test, but it was not like that in PA school. It's information given to you and you have to digest it because the next day we're learning something completely new, and it's just really fast paced. The one thing I will say, and I tell this to students and people who ask me about the PA school experience, there was nothing that I experienced in PA school that was harder, like mentally harder, than organic chemistry. Organic chemistry was so hard for me to just kind of grasp all the little abstract. My husband said it was like he would see me just doing like little stick figures, but there was nothing in PA school that was so hard to comprehend. It was just the sheer amount of information coming at you at one time, because basically PAs are trained on the medical model, so like medical school, and it's fast paced, so we didn't get breaks during the summer. We go straight through, and it's just information, fundamentals of clinical medicine. So that's where we're studying the disease process, symptoms, treatment. There's a pharmacology component where we're looking at how drugs interact with the body systems, how medications are metabolized, side effects, and then pathophysiology, anatomy. All of that good stuff is just a really, really fast pace. But anyway, made it through, and we had our white coat ceremony, which signified that we were done with our didactic year and getting ready to go out into the world and take care of patients, which most of us were extremely terrified, because now we're having to take what we learned in the classroom, in the safety of the classroom, in the safety of the stressed classroom, and apply it to real people. My very first rotation was a family medicine rotation, which I would say it's probably one of the hardest ones to have as your first, because in family medicine, you see a little bit of everything. So you kind of have to know a little bit of everything. But I got through it, and I was actually called back later and told that I did such a great job. They wondered if I wanted to possibly work there, because they were going to be hiring a PA. So that was pretty impressive. I mean, to be able to have a job offer before you even graduate. However, when I went on my mental health rotation, that's when I found out that I really, really had a passion for psych, which was not surprising, because I can think back to my years on the playground and still being there trying to help people through difficult stages. In third grade, it's really tough. Like if you have to sit down because you missed the word on the spelling bee. But hey, it's all relative. But they're encouraging people, and that's what you do a lot in psychiatry. People will often get what I do confused with counseling. I'm not a counselor, but part of my natural, bedside manner and my treatment plan, I do speak words of life into my patients while I'm treating them medically. So anyway, one point I'd like to mention is that when I was in PA school during didactic year, I made a list of things that I felt would fit my lifestyle. So at the time in school, I'm the non-traditional student who's married with 3 very active children who are involved in soccer and dance and, recitals and music. So I wanted to make sure that me pursuing a career was not detrimental to the family. I didn't want my husband to feel like he was a single dad having to take care of children. So for me, I knew I did not want to work 12-hour shifts. Now, there are some benefits to working 12-hour shifts. I talked to some people, and basically they work about 12 days a month, and that's it. But for me, I knew that wouldn't work with our family dynamic. So I made a list of the things that I wanted, what type of schedule, how close I wanted to be to home, the type of salary I wanted, and then also just how comfortable I felt in certain environments. And as I went on rotations, I would compare each rotation to that list to see where I could see myself working after graduation. And the top ones for me were family medicine, psychiatry, and women's health. And it's interesting because all 3 of those have something in common. You still treat patients who are dealing with mental health illnesses. 1 out of every 4 patients who come in through family medicine is dealing with some type of mental illness. And it's not always addressed, because if someone's coming in with acute abdominal pain or back pain or headaches, those are the items that would be addressed. And in primary care, most of the time the pace is so fast, there's not a lot of time to dig deeper and start talking about, do you feel like you're less motivated? Or are you having lack of interest? Do you sometimes feel like you just want to be alone? And so those things oftentimes will kind of just get missed. And so yeah, so that's sort of my overall how my journey went to PA school, how I got started. And while I was in PA school, I was still active in terms of serving as a class officer, serving as a student ambassador. And that's what sort of helped me to it was good for my mental health to be able to step away and have something else to focus on instead of just schoolwork all the time. And for those of you who are interested in becoming a PA, I would suggest that you really do some soul searching and ask why. Because if you say, well, I just want to help people, there are so many other helping professions. You can be a helper as a social worker. You can help as a physical therapist. So what exactly is it about being a PA, other than the fact that we were voted the #1 profession, by U.S. News and World Health Report or whatever it is? But other than that, what is it about the profession that draws you? For me, it was I like the teaching side of it. I believe as PAs, we do, the way that we're taught, we tend to spend a little bit more time educating our patients and making sure that our patients understand what's going on. And that part came naturally for me because out of all the professions I've had in the past, there's been some type of teaching element. But I just needed to get the science side, under my belt. But that was, for me, one of the reasons why I wanted to become a PA. Characteristics that I think are a must if you want to be a PA. #1, you have to have an open mind. So you're going to meet patients who are so different from you. Their lives are so different. And so you have to take your biases out of the way and just focus on the job at hand. Also, you have to be committed to be a lifelong learner. There's no such thing as finishing PA school and then that's it, you know it all. Health guidelines, treatment guidelines are constantly changing, so you have to be abreast of those things. One of the, most beautiful things that happened to me early on in my career is that I have a friend who owns an internal medicine practice, and he was super busy and needed some extra help. So he asked, this is immediately after I graduated, if I knew of a PA who wanted to work in internal medicine. And I was like, me. So while I was building my patient load in psychiatry, I was also working part-time in internal medicine. And that was so helpful because we're trained as PAs to look at the body holistically. So again, we're trained on the medical model. So we're looking at all of the body systems, and working in internal medicine kept me in the loop on the latest treatments for diabetes. And, in psychiatry, we deal with, say, depression, but all depression isn't primary depression. That depression could be stemming from someone who has underactive thyroid, or it could be because they changed one of their medications and the side effect of the medication is depression. So just having that opportunity to work in internal medicine just sort of gave me that whole well-rounded approach, which leads me to another good point about our profession is, as a PA, you can move laterally. You can move within different specialties without having to go back to school. A lot of my classmates ended up working in orthopedics. Some ended up working in cardiology, pediatrics. So we kind of went everywhere. And if you grow tired or bored of working in one particular area, you can work somewhere else. Now, that's not to say that you won't need some additional training, whether it be on-the-job training and having a good support system while you're, kind of refreshing and learning what you learned back in school, or even taking some additional courses. But I think that's another beautiful part about our profession as opposed to the MD route or the NP route, because I get asked that too. Well, why did you do PA versus NP? And that's a whole different conversation. I love the NPs. To me, it's not a competition. One of my best friends is a psych NP, and I know a lot of people like to pit us against each other, but as long as you're taking care of people, especially in mental health, where right now there's a shortage of psychiatric providers, hey, I'm all, the more the merrier. Any more characteristics that I think would be good for being a PA? I would say curiosity. You have to be curious. If a patient comes in and they're telling you that X is the problem, you have to be curious and know how to ask the right questions. And you have to be creative. Because sometimes you might ask a question and someone will answer it, somebody else may not answer that question, but there's, as my mom used to say, more than one way to skin a cat. You can ask a question another way that the patient can relate to a little bit more. So having patience and compassion. Obviously, if you're working in healthcare, you have to be someone who's compassionate. We've probably all had a situation where we've had a healthcare provider whose bedside manner was just left a lot to be desired, and we don't need any more of those. So that's just all I wanted to share. Like I said, the purpose of this video is so that I can share it with people, because I'm constantly asked about my story and how I got started, what was it like being a non-traditional student. That part was funny. I just remember going into class with my laptop and thinking, it's just a laptop, and I put mine on the desk in front of me and I look around and all these younger students have these nice slim little MacBooks, and I have this big clunky heavy laptop with me, but it worked. I got through school. But I can share later my path to starting my telepsychiatry practice. But for now, that's it. I hope this was informative. Make sure you share it with someone who's interested in our profession. I absolutely love being a PA. In addition to treating patients, it's also given me a platform to really promote health, in particular mental health. And I've had opportunities to speak, write articles, be interviewed, do conferences, and I'm absolutely loving every bit of it. All right, take care. Until next time. Bye.